Yes, good morning to all of you boys and girls. We are starting with our normal practice of having the classes in this format. Sure. We start with where we have stopped here, the circulatory system. Now in the circulatory system, we are going for the blood pipes, the vessels, so to say. The two of the vessels which we have, one is called as your artery, singular, plural will be called as your arteries, and the other is we are calling it as veins, or the plural we call as your veins as two. Now we will try to differentiate between the two of them. We will take the points one by one. The blood vessels are those which carry oxygenated blood, will be called as your arteries. The blood vessels which carry your deoxygenated blood will be called as veins. This is a common your general condition, or which we say it as. Now we have exception of them. One of the blood vessels which carry blood from your heart to the lungs, carrying CO2 blood, and surely will be for oxygenation. So it will give into your periphery of the lungs and your alveolar surface for oxygenation. So this pulmonary artery is the one which carry your deoxygenated blood, and which is an exception of your artery. And similarly here the pulmonary vein is the one which is also your exception, which carry your oxygenated blood from your lungs to the heart. So these are the two exceptions which are here. But all in general, the one we say is the blood vessels which carry your oxygen rich blood, we are calling it as your artery, or CO2 rich blood, we are calling them as your veins, with the exception. Once again we move to the next point. We move to the next point here. These are the ones, arteries are the ones which send or distribute or give, whatever you say it as, or what we can understand it as. She also send or distribute O2 rich blood from the body parts from the heart. So they give from the heart to the entire body parts. That's what we say it is. It arises from your heart and goes to the different body parts in the tissue or the cells. So this is it. Now these are the ones which receive, which bring back, receives or collect from the different parts of the body or different tissues, and they bring it to the heart. So that's the one which we are saying it here. So they distribute your O2 rich blood from your heart to the different body parts, whereas they collect the blood from the different body parts and bring it to the heart. We have once again a small exception in them. In here, the exception once again is the pulmonary or artery, which will be carrying your CO2 blood from the heart to the lungs. That's one it. And here is the one, your pulmonary veins, which will carry your oxygenated blood from the lungs to your heart. So these are once again the exceptions which I have underlined, and you can take it as. The next point here we are talking is that they have narrow lumen. Now I have drawn two small things. This is your TS, or transverse section of the artery, and your transverse section of the vein. So transverse section of the artery is much muscular. They are very thick walled, but the internal diameter is called as lumen. Say for example, if I take this as your paper and if I fold it like this, so this paper becomes your cylindrical, and this cylindrical paper will have a sort of internal portion. Now this internal portion of your tube or the cylinder will be called as your duct. So every duct is something will have an internal diameter. So a pipe or a duct or vessel will have an internal diameter, and that will be called as the lumen. But the condition here is this, that arteries, the lumen is very narrow. As the lumen is very narrow, the blood pressure, so the blood which passes through it. So if I make it very narrow like this, this is your very narrow one. So the blood, when we pass it through the artery, will be with a very fast speed, and surely the blood pressure will be low. When we go for your example of your vein, your lumen is, I'm not making it as more. So the lumen increases. As the lumen increases, surely the internal diameter, what we are calling it as, increases. As the internal diameter increases, so the blood which passes through this tube will be comparatively having a lower pressure. Hope so you can understand. So they have your narrow lumen. Due to that, the blood pressure will be high. Here they have a very wider lumen, That's why we are having that veins will have blood pressure comparatively to the arteries low. So that's to make this, I have drawn this one. So this is having a wider lumen, this is having a sort of narrow lumen, this is much muscular thick walled, and these are very thin walled, you see. Sure. So number of layers they differ from these two. We move to the next unit. So they carry blood under high pressure, they carry blood under your lower pressure. We move to the next point. So arteries, as they have oxygenated blood, and oxygen reacts with hemoglobin to form something called as your oxyhemoglobin. Please pardon. So oxygen reacts with hemoglobin to form your oxyhemoglobin, and this oxyhemoglobin give a reddish color, and due to that they appear reddish. And arteries, they move through the deeper layers of the body, so we are calling them as your deep seated. Here we are calling that these your ones, they appear bluish just because their carbon dioxide reacts with your hemoglobin to form your carbaminohemoglobin. This carbaminohemoglobin is bluish in color, and due to that they appear as your blue. And these are quite nearer to the skin. So if we clench our fist, these are your small, quite bluish lines which you are able to see. These small bluish lines are actually the ones which are your veins. So veins are quite nearer to the skin, so they are found at the periphery of the body, where these are found at the deeper layers, so we are calling them as deep seated. Now there are some kind of thing which are called as valves. Let me draw something. I'm drawing it here, so it's an example. Now this is this tube. So this tube has something like this. So this is the valve which we say it as. So this is now these two, we call them as your valves. Now when the blood moves in this direction, the blood can easily flow down. So these are quite like two gates. So blood can easily flow down. But when the blood tries to go back, I'll use this kind of color. When the blood is short, so this I'm using for the blood. So when the blood flows, these two gates, the valves open. But when the blood tries to go back, these two gates, they get closed. So these two gates, when they get closed, these gates we are calling it as muscular valve. So muscular valves are there to prevent the backflow. Veins have your muscular valves, but arteries, they doesn't have it. Arteries, their blood flow is quite faster and quite at a higher pressure, so they doesn't need any kind of that kind of valves. But veins, as comparatively they have the blood pressure lesser, so surely the blood flow should not go back. To prevent the blood flow, we have something called as your muscular valves. And finally, we have the last point here. So arteries, they break up into fine tubes, your thin lines, which you are calling it as arterioles. And these arterioles, they once again, so if I take it as this artery breaks up into fine tubes, these are called as arterioles. These arterioles will once again break down into fine tube, which will be called as your capillaries. So these capillaries will be distributing your nutrients as well as respiratory gases to the tissues. So once again, if I come back from this side, so these are your capillaries will join up, they will join up to form your structure we are calling venules. These venules once again will form a sort of your veins. So arteries, they break up into arterioles, and arterioles once again break up into fine capillaries for the distribution and exchange of the matter, as well as gases through diffusion. And here the capillaries, they join up to form your venules, which further join up to form your veins, and the veins ultimately they bring back whatever the metabolic waste and your CO2 from the cells and the tissue. With this, we finish here today's class. Hope so you could understand. If you find it better, we will continue further. Thanks to all of you. Thank you.